What would you say is the best twin turbo car ever made? I would say it's the twin turbo 300ZX. They are some of the best sounding engines. And aesthetically, I think it's one of the most beautiful 90s Japanese cars. I've always wanted a twin turbo 300ZX, so when this came up on Facebook Marketplace for $3,800, I knew I had to have it. But the only thing that could make this twin turbo 300ZX better is if it actually had twin turbos in it. So today we're going to put the soul back into this twin turbo 300ZX by finally mounting the twin turbos onto the engine block before we get it reinstalled. We're going to be installing some twin G5 turbos from Concept Z Performance, and since these are bigger than stock, it's going to take some work to make them fit. They do mount right up to the stock manifolds, so we're going to get a new gasket on with the stock manifolds before we mount these on. Once those are torqued down, we can get the OEM heat shields back on. From there, we're going to transfer the lines off the stock turbos, like the coolant lines, the intake pipes, the oil lines, things like that. We're going to put fresh gaskets and washers on them. And before we install these for good, we have to mock them up so we make sure that they're clocked right. And we want to make sure the wastegate rod and the rest of the turbo is clearing things like the engine block and the motor mounts. The passenger side is definitely a lot more difficult than the driver's side. The motor mount is a very tight fit, and I ended up shaving it down just a cunt hair. The last thing we have to do before we install the turbos for the final time is we have to sync and set the wastegates. We want to make sure that they open at the same time and they're set to the right pressure. We do this by connecting vacuum lines to both wastegates, and then I'm using this pump and testing when the wastegates open. If they're not at the right pressure or they don't open at the same time, we just adjust the rod until they do. And with everything clear now, we can install this for the final time with the new gasket. The factory service manual calls for these locking tabs, which run $22 a piece. These run underneath the washers, and then you tap them flat so that the nuts can't come undone from vibration and heat cycles. The G5 turbos come from Concept Z with braided oil lines, which is a big upgrade from the stock hard pipes that come from the factory. However, when I got to installing them, I realized the elbow that comes out of the block feed wasn't going to fit with the turbo on there, so I had to take everything back off so I can get that threaded in. I put a little bit of red RTV on it just for some insurance. And then I ran the same exact process on the driver's side and got that turbo installed. And the only things left for the bottom of this engine were to get the AC compressor tree back on, and then moving over to the other side to get the power steering pump bracket on. And now we can work our way up by installing the intake and intercooler piping onto the turbos directly. And then finally we could put the fuel rail with the injectors back in, which I put all new fuel lines on. Now, as fun as brand new turbos are, this car wouldn't be any good if we didn't do all the supporting mods to go with it. And one of the most important things you can do, especially on a car that's over 30 years old, is get a new wiring harness. So we have this full engine harness from Wiring Specialties that I bought from Concept Z Performance. But the unfortunate part is, even with the engine out, the wiring harness isn't that easy to remove. There's a bracket underneath the dash that holds it all in that we have to remove so that we can do this properly without damaging the new harness. The first step to accessing that bracket is we have to remove the glove box and the frame that holds the glove box in. And for obvious reasons, we also have to remove the ECU. And lastly, the evaporator assembly. We're going to be converting this car from R12 to R134A, so it had to come out no matter what. And with all that out of the way, we finally have access to the most difficult part of this engine harness removal. And then we can loop around to the engine bay and remove the brackets and heat shields that hold it in inside the actual engine bay. And once the old one's removed, we can thread in the new wiring harness. This fits exactly like OEM, so we just put it right through the old brackets and cover it up with the heat shields. For now, I'm just going to get it mounted to the firewall, and then I'm going to push it to the side until we actually get the engine in, and then I'll do the final assembly. On top of that, we also need to prep the rest of the engine bay, which includes redoing the power steering rack, since we know for a fact that thing probably leaks. Unfortunately, the power steering rack for this car has been discontinued, and to get a rebuilt one, it's upwards of $400 to $500. But fortunately, I was able to find this rebuild kit for around $50, and it comes with everything you need to completely reseal the rack, which is exactly what a parts dealer would do and charge you $300, $400, $500 for. I've never done this before, but today we're gonna attempt it, and from my research online, it doesn't look that hard, so I'm gonna walk you through what I did. I started off by removing the power steering solenoid, which was coated in power steering fluid, and then I went ahead and removed the pinion housing. The nut that covers the rack assembly is actually staked in, so we need to drill out the stake so that we can unscrew this without damaging the threads. I put a 41mm socket on my impact gun and went ahead and pulled off the nut. Then I used a drill bit to mark the top of the tensioner bolt, and I counted how many turns it took to take it out, so that way I have a reference mark when I put it back together. And once the rack was out of the housing, I went ahead and cut off the Teflon seal and removed the O-ring. To replace the Teflon seal, I heated it up with my heat gun because when you heat them up, they actually expand and make it easier to get it back onto the rack. I taped up the teeth on the rack to protect the seal before I put it on, then reinserted it into the housing. Once I had that in place, I could do the pinion seal and the rest of the housing. Now with the bigger turbos, they're going to be moving more air and producing more heat, so we need bigger intercoolers. And as you can see, these stock intercoolers just aren't going to do it. So I've got a set of intercoolers off of Alibaba. The build quality is pretty good, but we're going to need to make some room for them. And as many of you know, the Z32 was completely over-engineered, so we have a lot of stuff that we can remove that's not only going to make the engine run better, but it's going to simplify and make things easier to work on in the future. A lot of these extra items that were for emissions and different things like that have a bunch of vacuum lines that are just an opportunity for a vacuum leak that are going to make the engine run rough or give you check engine lights. So we're going to get rid of all of that stuff, starting off with a carbon canister so we can fit these bigger intercoolers inside. The carbon canister lives right behind the intercooler on the driver's side, so we remove the driver's side intercooler and you can see here's the carbon canister. Once the carbon canister is out, we can delete all the related vacuum lines, and we're also going to be removing the exhaust air injection valves. These put fresh air into the catalytic converters, but we're not running cats anyways, and this system was so useless they only ran it on the first couple years of the Z, so there's absolutely no reason for us to keep it with all the extra solenoids and vacuum lines that are just going to cause problems and cost money in the future to maintain. I ended up deleting the rear power steering rack and the EGR, and together this is all the stuff that we deleted that we'll never know is gone. And now we have plenty of room for these massive intercoolers, so I'm just going to transfer over the OEM brackets and get these installed. And as you can see, not only do these aesthetically look better, but they're gonna provide us with cooler air and help us get to our horsepower goal. Now, all we have left to get this motor back in the car is we have to do all the stuff to prep for the manual swap, like installing the clutch and brake pedal and run the clutch line. And then we're gonna be converting the AC from R12 to R134A just to make it more serviceable, and since we're refreshing the AC system anyways. But we're heading out to Hawaii, so we're gonna have to save all that for when we get back from our trip. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, drop a like on the video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.